there's that on jackpots. I mean, that last jackpot, the grand champion made what, the showman was $1,000 or something.
Yeah.
Hey, Darryl.
Hey, buddy, I'm here. Who's on there with us?
I have no idea. People.
All right. Hey, there's old Krista.
Anybody else need to be admitted?
So yeah, I think that you can make a little money, not a lot. I mean, like Jack had a really nice steer last year, that stocking footed one, and so he came back from that show with like $500.
Right.
But like the one he had this year, we're gonna come back with $30, and the entry fee was $50. So I mean, but there is, if you have one of those high end ones, I mean, those kids are getting decent checks when they move there.
Right.
The showman got $1,000 for every species that came last weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're in that circuit and you're going from jackpot to jackpot and you're doing well, you can make back quite a bit of money, right? But probably the biggest thing I'm finding as an advisor, of course, when I started, you had people that had ties to doing that kind of thing. They had animals, they'd raised animals. And so now, like I had a student this year that great kids, never raised an animal, got a steer. And so it's a big job to take on as advisor, because you want to make sure it's successful and be upfront with feed costs, because right now, of course, feed costs are going up right now as we speak. And, they've got $600, $800 in feed, probably easily, and you have to, as Lisa was saying, feeding them right facility. Probably the biggest thing I've come up against is that, the kid doesn't have any shelters. You try to put something together and where he can get out of the rain over here, of course, and being diligent. We came up in our chapter with a deal where when we do project visits, and as some of you might just go, man, you're doing that many times, but I actually try to go out every 10 to 15 days and look at the projects. And we have a form we fill out each time, whether they have fresh water as the pin, and then we use that when we go to the sale, because we're there with our purchasers from our community. Where they sit is, are they going to get that extra 10 cents a pound if we're bidding on it, on how they did with that project, but when you're investing $2,500, you're not just feeding, it's like a pig, something that comes to my mind. You go to the kid and he's got, well, my dad got all these day old bread and he's got the lettuce, and, it's like, well, we're not going to be able to get you where you want to go on lettuce and bread, but so there's a lot of inputs that go into this thing to get you to that rosette, or to take that to well, yeah, and our buyers were probably with them. Yeah, I let them know like this, and I take a list out to them prior and say, hey, here's the kids showing from Stanwood. This is what the species are showing, and then we'll talk about who's really done a great job. Of course, if they get the rosette, that's always a bonus. They're definitely going to do well. And it's pretty easy to pick out in that ring who's done the job and who hasn't usually. Yeah.
We've instituted at the request of our buyers a project summary sheet to hang up too. And we've got a lot of businessmen who will come in like the week of fair, and they will search out those FFA kids. And we found that some of the newbie kids that are coming in, they just go, well, mom and dad bought it.
Right.
And no knowledge of the project. And them as business people go, well, I need to know if you're going to make a profit, if you're at a loss, what did you learn, what's your feeding program? And so that type of educational information, we're going to start holding the kids accountable to that. And yeah, kids can still fudge numbers, but they're still not going to be able to hold a conversation.
Right. Yeah, that's something I've had to do too. Our buyers have really went into this mode of they want to see the kid. Used to be me going to Shank Pack saying, hey, you want to support us? Yeah, here's a check for $5,000. Do what you got to do for the kids. Now they want to see that kid, and they want to know what's your break-even price, and so it's grown into these kids have to be knowledgeable about what they're doing. Or
that's how a businessman's going to also, that's how they're educating, is they're going to make you scuff your knees if you don't have enough information. They're going to make you feel so you don't feel that way again. Next time, come at me and you'll get more money.
Going back to the sale thing, one other thing I was going to add, if you have kids, like Darryl said we don't have as many kids that are from those farm backgrounds before. I think it's worth the little extra money to go to one of those sales where all the steers are halter broke. And I mean, some of them, they're really good. Like John used to, he doesn't color code it anymore. He used to color code halters by disposition too, but they're really good about, like, the gal that halter breaks for him. Like I texted her and I said, hey, and I know her really well, but she'll just text me tag numbers, this one. So Jack's steers have been like, since pretty small puppy dogs, like they're, and so I think it's worth that little extra money, especially for a kid that has not, especially for a kid that hasn't shown before, to be able to walk your steer out on a halter from the sale.
So they get success the first time and not drug through the ring.
So, just trying to dig into some strategies. I'm sure you encounter this all the time. Parents go out and pay big bucks for steer, but then they want to go cheap feed. How do you convince? I hate fighting. What do you do to convince them to feed it? Because in my opinion, feeding them is probably more important than what they pay for.
Oh, yeah.
It is. Anymore, I have a meeting with the parent, the kid, prior to even buying the animal. There have been a few kids that they went and bought it without me knowing. But I try to really communicate in that previous meeting that this is what it's going to be, and this is what I recommend. But one thing too, I've kind of realized that I tell them my opinion, and then I say, I don't know everything. I'm just telling you what I do. Because most of these parents, well, my uncle has, and he says just to feed him this. And I go, well, I'm going to tell you, that's fine. It's your project, but this is what I'm going to tell you what I would do. This, because I've gotten a row about that where I know it, and I go, hey, I'm not telling you don't. It's just, this is what I would do, you know?
Or you got the parent who's potential, but they're like, you're going to spend $10 a day.
Right.
On feed. It's like,
Yeah.
And I've had kids where when I sat down with them and did that with them, the parent goes, hold it, I'm out. You know, we're not doing that, right? So, oh, yeah, for sure. I'd rather have them say I'm out, say, hey, you want to do a pig? You know?
Well, I remember my first year ag teaching, I had a girl that I took to the Puyallup Fair, and she went to that world of wild livestock, and she thought she saw some pretty cool animals in there, and she said, I want to go to the stock show. And I said, well, what animal did you buy? I mean, are you going to do this? Are you really into this? I'll help you. I'll get the info. Oh no, we've already got an animal. I said, what is it? Oh, I got a Wagyu bull. And I said, a bull? How big? Oh, he's about 800 pounds, and he's a breeder. And I said, put the bull before the cart. You know, sometimes communication is huge.
I had a kid one time, she says, her dad and mom had pigs. She wanted to raise a steer, bought a Brahma. I'm going, oh boy. You know?
Bull or cow?
It'd been
Steer?
castrated, but she took him, you know, but that was a whole other deal too.
Big old floppy.
I haven't had that, but they're crossing those guys.
I think
They
it's
get big.
important for what does the kid want out of it? Like, do they want to win or do they want to make money? Because honestly, with steers, it's usually either one or the other. Like,
Yeah.
if you spend the money for a really high quality steer.
Yeah, like I have an ex-student, Brandon Nichols. You might know him through ag sales and stuff. He was a kid who is about the money. So he'd go up to OMAC, family friend, get an animal for, you know, pennies and wilder than a March hare, but he'd bring those things home and he would do the marketing because that's how he was, and he'd make a ton of cash, right? And then he'd laugh at everybody that wasn't, but that was his deal. That was what he didn't care about, the ribbon, he cared about the money.
Laugh at the guy that brings the trailer in from Oklahoma with, oh, snap bully.
How do you convince a different sort of jackpot instead of just staying?
I don't know if you're gonna do that because that's an individual thing. In my
Yeah,
mind,
we
that's not a
can't go.
FFA oriented type
Not
4-H.
here, at least. I mean, we just kind of go as a family, and I'm pretty good about, I tell my FFA kids, I'm like, if you want to go, I'll get you there. So I have a little more flexibility than a lot of school districts do with stuff, so.
I promote it.
Yeah.
It's important for them to learn more than one thing. If they're gonna do well. So, but I don't.
So good.
where
And if they go, make an effort to show up.
it
too.
was Christopher Francis. That's one of my
That goes a lot with
ex-classmates.
parents. Even if it's one day and you gotta take a half day off work, personal day, that goes a long way with the parents. Parents will come back and tell your community members, and you look like a G.
Yeah. Yes, Rusty, here we go.
Okay, Rusty,
Rusty Pinch is on.
stand up, please.
Piggyback off. Make money. At what point in time do you bring in like Brett Moyer?
Well, I will say this whole thing and all species is changed because my ag teacher, Kurt Greenwald, I got steer and he came out to our barn. He goes, well, here's the clippers. You're going to make a line from his brisket to here to his flank. But see you later. And I remember I was sitting there sweating bullets, and now there's a fitting and all that stuff. But there's a lot of the thing of technology, which he'll tell you, I'm not a technology guy, but go to YouTube, all that stuff. There's a crap load of things to learn from kids can get, but
You can make your kid a good fitter. They'll get paid.
Oh.
I know the the champion steer at Kootenai, that they spent a lot of money on it, and the guy they bought it from flew in people to fit for them at the show.
yep.
I think sometimes too, you got kids though that see the other show kids, and they'll say, wow, I want that big tack box locker, and I want this, and I want to be the show jock, and I want the expensive animal. And you got to say, well, it goes back to, do you want to make money or do you want to look sparkly? Do you go to the horses if you want the fancy? But
So
if you,
we make money on our pigs, and then Jack breaks even with his steer. That's my goal for him, is that we don't lose money, but he's not gonna make money. And then we use our other animals to make a little money for him. So,
And it,
yeah.
and I would say know your show, because different shows are going to require you to be at this level with an animal, and some shows aren't. It just depends. Know your competition. If you know your local area and what's going to be there, you don't need to go to Puget Sound with a $5,000 steer, because if you've got 6 or 10 animals. Now, if you're going to Spokane, you're going to have a little better quality. And I think too, what she just said, my eye opener, my daughter wanted to go to California to show. So we loaded up some cows and we headed to California. And I'd never been to a show like that. We rolled in there. They had a building the size of a football field with nothing but trim and shoots. And so we bought a heifer from a guy down there. So we took the heifer down. Same thing. There was a fitting fee. She paid, or I paid $250. 2 guys got on there, and it was like a gosh dang barber show. All day long. It was crazy. I learned so much just in that weekend, just to have that fitting. Yeah.
If they get good at that, it's insane how much money they can make.
Oh.
I know a guy who went to school down in Oklahoma State, and his crew, they hit every jackpot down there, and they pretty much each took a leg.
Yep.
And they put marks on the asphalt, and